It is 0 hour 30 Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Sudan has rejected a United Nations Security Council resolution to deploy UN troops in the Darfur area of Sudan. The ruling National Congress Party called the resolution hostile. Party leaders reportedly said Sudan would not accept a resolution that violates the government's right to self-rule. The Sudanese state news agency reported the statements. The UN Security Council approved the resolution earlier Thursday. It calls for the UN to take control of and expand an African Union force already in Darfur. Additional troops would not be deployed without the approval of Sudan's government. 12 of the Security Council's 15 members voted for the resolution. China, Qatar, and Russia did not vote. The Foreign Minister of Sweden says aid providers have offered $940 million to rebuild Lebanon. Jan Eliasson says that is almost 2 times the amount that was expected. More than 50 nations attended the aid meeting in Stockholm on Thursday. Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Siniora said the recent fighting had destroyed 15 years of rebuilding that followed Lebanon's civil war. He said none of the aid would be given to the Hezbollah militant group. But the Prime Minister says rebuilding Lebanon will be difficult unless Israel ends its land, air, and sea blockade. Syria has expressed support for the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Syrian Foreign Minister Walid Muallim spoke with United Nations Secretary-General Kofi Annan in Damascus. Mr. Muallim said the UN should work for permanent peace in the Middle East. Reports say Syria wants a peace deal that would call for Israel to return the Golan Heights to Syria. Israel says it will not withdraw from Lebanon until the UN ceasefire is operating. Israel says this includes the release of 2 Israeli soldiers captured by Hezbollah. Israel also says the UN peacekeeping force must be able to prevent Syria from rearming Hezbollah. Syria says the presence of international troops on the border between Syria and Lebanon would be a hostile act. Israeli police have forced their way into the British embassy in Tel Aviv and captured a Palestinian man. Reports say the man illegally entered the British embassy. Nadim Injaz reportedly threatened to kill himself unless he was given asylum in Britain. Mr. Injaz reportedly is an informer for the Israeli Security Service. He spoke to television reporters by telephone. He said Palestinian militants threatened to kill him unless he carried out an attack in Israel. Mr. Injaz said Israel rejected his request to live in the Jewish state. Also Thursday, Palestinians say Israeli troops killed a commander of the Palestinian group Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades during fighting in Nablus. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Rocket and bomb attacks in the Iraqi capital have killed at least 43 people. More than 100 others were wounded. The attacks were aimed mainly at a Shiite Muslim area of Baghdad. Earlier Thursday, Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki said Iraqi forces may be responsible for security in most of the country by the end of the year. Mr. al-Maliki said Iraqi forces would take control of security in Dai-Kar province next month, and that other areas will follow. The United Nations Nuclear Agency says Iran is still enriching the element uranium. The UN Security Council had ordered Iran to stop processing uranium by Thursday, August 31st. The statement on Iran's nuclear program came in a report presented by the International Atomic Energy Agency to the Security Council. The UN Nuclear Agency also says it has not been able to confirm Iran's claims that the program is for peaceful purposes. The American ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, says the report is a warning to the international community about Iran's nuclear plans. A top Iranian nuclear official says the UN report shows that American claims about Iran's nuclear program are false. A Canadian human rights group has awarded its yearly Freedom Prize to Burmese political activist Susu Nwe. She is known for fighting forced labor. The Rights and Democracy Group gave Susu Nwe the John Humphrey Freedom Award. The award includes $20,000. Officials of the Canadian group say the activist's struggle for human rights has made her an example of bravery to the people of Burma. Last year, Ms. Susu Nwe won a rare victory in a court case against village officials. The officials had forced her and others in the village to repair a road without pay. The activist was arrested soon after her victory and jailed for 9 months. After her release, Ms. Susu Nwe said she was not happy because forced labor still exists in Burma. Thousands of visitors are fleeing the Pacific Ocean coast of Mexico because of a powerful ocean storm. Weather officials say wind speeds in Hurricane John have slowed to 165 kilometers an hour. But the officials say the storm could grow stronger before it reaches the southern part of the Baja California area. Mexican officials are attempting to move at least 10,000 people from low coastal areas. In Miami, the United States Hurricane Center says the center of the storm is expected near or over Baja California on Friday. Briefly, here again is the major news. Sudan has rejected a United Nations Security Council resolution to deploy UN troops in the Darfur area of Sudan. The foreign minister of Sweden says aid providers have offered $940 million to rebuild Lebanon. And rocket and bomb attacks have killed at least 43 people and wounded more than 100 in a mainly Shiite Muslim area of Baghdad. That's the news in special English.